Welcome to Fan4Racing Radio. I am Fan4Racing Sharon, and joining me tonight is Jay Huseman and Chris Crichton, and we are here to talk about our North Wilkesboro rivalry and controversy, our hot topic sound off on Fan4Racing Radio here tonight, and we've got a lot to talk about. So, Jay, do you want to kick us off here tonight?
Well, it seems like the pretty basic standard question, but first off, what we thought of this being the third year of the All-Star race and race weekend at North Wilkesboro. So the racing itself, and then I know we got another one that kind of plays off of that, but we'll just start there. What did you think of the racing?
Chris?
Oh, I get to start. Great.
You get to start.
I mean, so are we going to do this like 9 out of 10? Exceptional. This is just what we needed. Most exciting race of the season. Can we please get a cup date? Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Okay. I thought the racing was really good. It was what you would expect at a typical short track race. It's a 0.625 mile track, I think. And I think it was a lot of beating and banging and stuff that people like about the short track races. I heard a lot of drivers say it was the best short track on the track. And I think they were saying the same thing, Chris. Can we have more? So I do think that the truck race, there was some controversy with the finish. The cup race, there was some controversy with the finish. So rivalries were forming and controversy developing. And I think fans couldn't ask for anything more. It was an exhibition race, and the exhibition race to me is for the fans. No points on the line, so the drivers could race any way they wanted without worrying about a points repercussion. And I think that added to the excitement on the track. So, Jay, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think y'all hit on it. I'd have to agree. As far as the truck race, I thought was great. The good thing is the asphalt is already getting seasoned, and they talked about that of working in 3-lane. In the Cup Series, we saw 4 wide. There was a little ping-ponging, and somebody was the ping-pong ball. Yeah. But the Cup drivers, being the top level, I mean, they actually did go a lap or two, 3 and 4 wide without completely wrecking. Again, they might have bent some fenders and all. So as far as a short track, I think it absolutely delivered. As far as an all-star race, I thought it delivered. I know people are wanting to go back all the way and compare it back to Charlotte. But there again, I mean, so many things have changed. So right now, I am very happy with this as our all-star event. It revised North Wilkesboro, and the facility, phenomenal. From, again, they showed pictures of 3 years ago, and Dale Jr. trying to mow down some weeds and grass and stuff to what it is. And Sharon, you and I talked about it the other night, or on the preview, I think, of the job they did after last year's torrential flood hurricane just within that half-mile track. And I'd forgotten exactly how bad it was. I mean, you saw where these trucks were about floating away because they got caught in it. So the staffing there clearly did a great job because they got it cleaned up and ready to go as soon as they could. So overall, I absolutely 5 thumbs up. I don't have 5 thumbs on this hand, but give it a 5 thumbs up.
I have to agree with you, Jay. It's so great that Marcus and Dale Jr. and all these guys got on board, not just reviving a racetrack, but giving it purpose, right? We can revive racetracks all over the place and basically be reminded very soon why that track closed. We've given North Wilkesboro a new life, a new reason to breathe. And we've given fans in that region that have supported NASCAR for 60, 70 years now, we've given them a place that they can call home. And, you know, it's not just the fact that this racetrack was brought back to life. This racetrack is one of the oldest racetracks. It is similar to Martinsville. It's very similar to Darlington. This was where the grassroots racing of NASCAR started. And I think that that's probably, to me, the most nostalgic thing since repurposing of these racetracks. You know, Rockingham, it was cool to see them bring it back, but it's something really special about North Wilkesboro. The track was not a top-notch facility from day one. The owners that opened the racetrack struggled. They struggled for funding to even get the track opened. And, you know, who would have thought all these years later it would have had this center of attention that it's had for the last 3 years? And, you know, people want to dog on NASCAR for making dumb decisions and this, that, and the other. And, you know, maybe Joey Logano, you know, maybe he had a point or something later on in the, you know, at the end of the race there with the obnoxious caution. But outside of that, I mean, you know, you just can't say anything else about North Wilkesboro and the return of it. This is the third year. Of course, I was a little expecting, you know, a complete sellout crowd. I'm not sure if they actually met that number, but it was still a great support there at the racetrack. So, you know, that's where I stand. How about you, Ms. Sharon?
I just want to say welcome. We have a few viewers joining in on our live stream here tonight. And we do have a live chat feature available. So if you want to join in the conversation and tell us what your thoughts are, it's below the stream. And on the right side, just click on that and you'll be able to join in and be a part of our conversation here tonight and tell us what your thoughts are about the racing at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Right now, we're on that particular topic. And again, I just thought the racing was great all the way around. It was what you would expect at a short track. And yeah, there were a few controversies. We had the Joey Logano, we'll talk about that a little bit later, versus Christopher Bell. We also had the Corey Heim versus Lane Riggs in the Truck Series race. That was an exciting finish as well. And we can talk about that as we go on here this evening as well. But I would think that NASCAR will come back again and join in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series at least. And I was thinking about the Cup Series. It's kind of a short track for 40 cars to be on the track at North Wilkesboro. So I think it would be kind of cool if they did heat races again and set that to where it could be. Well, we'll talk about it later on, but to set that for the field for the Cup Series if they were to come back there. And I know we're talking about that, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I really don't have anything more to say. I like the racing there, and I think it would be great. Chris, did you have something more to say?
I did, because I'm so enthused by this heat racing thing, and I really think that we might have found something here. And if you know, look, I think one of the greatest things about the Open is you get to see drivers leading up in. You know, it's obviously a separation between the drivers who've won and the Open cars which haven't won. But the racing is never boring when you get these guys who don't typically win or not up front. And then you're surprised and you're left in awe, you know, just the driving. You know, these guys were like, you know, it was like the $1 million was on the line for the Open. And it really is, if you think about it, because, you know, if you don't make it to the All-Star race, you don't have a chance at the $1 million. But there was nothing short of some great driving and some sticking it in there. By the Open cars. One of my most impressive was Preece and AJ Allmendinger. Those guys, like, they were on a whole nother level. And yeah. I just think that that's a certain component that it would be interesting to see if somehow we could maybe get heat racing in our Cup schedule.
Okay.
You know, Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Jay is biting at the bit.
No,
Right.
I just want because what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying if I'm hearing you right, but that's the open, not the heat races.
Yeah.
Okay. And then whenever you are done, I do want to jump back in there because I'm on the same page with you from that aspect.
Yeah, and so let me refurb that because obviously my biggest thing this weekend that I was upset the most about is the fact that FS2 was the one that played the heat races, and unfortunately, those were 275 lap features or 275 lap heat races that I don't think hardly anybody got to watch. And
Oh, that's a shame.
Did you guys get to watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Y'all had FS2.
Yeah.
So we don't have the FS2 here. So
And I've heard that, but
I'm on Xfinity, so I really, like I'm on one of the most major networks, and we don't have FS2.
I'm shocked you don't have it.
Right.
Some don't even have FS1. Some don't even have SS1 unless you have a particular package.
Right. So I tried to find it on YouTube later on. I tried to find it on the Fox Sports app. I could not find it anywhere in those two areas. So I did miss the heat races, but the open, look, the heat races were great. I went back and did the review on them, and of course it was some good racing there. But the open was definitely something. Maybe kind of a mixture of that, where you have your top 20 guys race a heat race and one heat race, and then you have your back 20 guys race another heat race that's kind of like the open. I just really like the idea of guys who are not always up front getting the ability to show off their driving skills, to it just gives them a chance to know what it feels like to run up front. And I think, Jay, you could probably say that with me as well, that when you get to see a young guy who doesn't typically get to run up front, to gain that experience is a valuable experience. And I think that the NASCAR, Formula One and some other major racing, they have what they call sprints. And so, maybe we can figure something out and actually give a little bit more racing with this series than what we've had in the past.
Okay, Jay.
Well, you were right. I am chomping at the bit, but it's going to bring back an old topic for me and one I get very fired up about. So be ready. But and I'm with you, Chris, the open, and I have said this for all the years I've been here with Fan4Racing. The open for the All-Star race is always one of the best races because you have to win it, or they've extended it now to the top 2, 3, whatever, fan vote. And I'm okay with all that. But you got to be up front, one of the top, in order to get into the main event. The heat races, and they talked about this all day on Sirius XM. Well, we don't, the heat races don't provide any action because they don't mean anything. You've already qualified. You know who your fast cars are. Why are you going to tear your car up in a heat race when you are locked into the feature? That goes back to my point of get rid of this top 36 cars locked in, guaranteed to make the race. I understand the reason that NASCAR has done it, the charter system or the top 35 in points. But if you just open it up and allow the fastest cars to make the race and do it via heat racing or even qualifying, then think about qualifying for the Daytona 500. There's intensity because you have cars that have to race fast enough to get in or they don't. But it's always only between 2 to 4 cars. Think about an entire race like that, and that's what the open is. The heat races really aren't. We saw that with a couple of drivers, that there really wasn't anything to bust up their car for because they were guaranteed to at least start. So what's the point? That's where you run into the issue. If you take away the locked-in cars for a Cup Series race, you're going to get that kind of action, even in qualifying. But if you're going to do heat races, they got to mean something.
That's a good point.
Yes, that's a really good point. Are we ready to move on to the next topic, Chris?
Yeah, sure. I guess you want me to pick a topic real quick. Let's check it out and see real quick. I was expecting that to go a little bit further. So does North Wilkesboro, let's stay on point, does North Wilkesboro deserve a points-paying race? I'll start with you, Sharon.
I do think that they deserve a points-paying race. I would like to see both the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series race there. Again, I think the Cup Series, maybe they can get 40 cars on a 0.625 mile track. I'm not sure. The Truck Series race seemed to go pretty well. But I would like to see some kind of, let's say, elimination type format where they pare it down for the Cup Series, whether it be heat races or whatever they decide to do. But I do think there should be some kind of a elimination race prior to the Cup Series race in particular, because I think it's going to be tough to put all of those cars on the track. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have new ones because you just gave us something to think about there, and I like it. First off, the question, does North Wilkesboro deserve a points-paying race? I'm going to say yes. But so does Chicagoland. So does Road America. Yeah. So does Portland in Oregon. So does Pikes Peak in Colorado. I mean, that's the problem from that aspect. Second, though, do they deserve it and will they support it and sustain it? There's a reason they are no longer there and the track went by the wayside because it wasn't supported. You have area, what did they call it? They phrase it, saturation. We went from all races in the Carolina, Georgia, Florida area to expand, okay? So it's going to sound like I'm on both sides of the fence. I'm just saying, and a lot of this is coming, I listen to Dave Moody as well as the morning drive throughout the day. We just got done saying, great all-star race, best all-star race we've had. Why do we want to change it? Why do we want to take it away? Do we know? I'm not saying it'd be not good, but why do we want to do a 400-mile points-paying race? Are we going to get that same type of action then? No, what we got was because it's an all-star race, exhibition race. So, but do I think it could be a good Cup race? Yes, I do. Now the question becomes, though, where does that race come from? Are there other tracks that are just as deserving? A lot of questions to be answered there. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, and I was just thinking about it. Martinsville is smaller than North Wilkesboro, and they put on some good races there. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely not on board with the I would vote no to the elimination side. I feel like we've had plenty of tracks, and this track has been on the schedule for a very long time. There's not much changed in the size of the race cars. So pit road, I don't really think it's an issue. Now, if we were talking about Bowman Gray Stadium or something like that, the Coliseum as we'd raced before, I can see that. It would be very exciting to see 40 cars on North Wilkesboro. I think that there would be no problem at all handling that. And Jay, you said something about oversaturated in the area. Well, the last thing that I want to see is oversaturation of the All-Star event, right? I think that now is the chance. This is 3 years. I know on the show that I've done for the last several years, we've had this topic come up. And I may have even shared that here, that it seems like the going rate is 3 years. We did the Coliseum for 3 years. We moved it. This is 3 years with North Wilkesboro. I don't want to oversaturate the All-Star race. I want to see it move as we've seen, particular dates move as we've seen. Of course, the championship race coming up next year where it's going to move. I think that that's good because it keeps things fresh. I don't see any issues at all. I would like a three event weekend, whether that be ARCA trucks and NASCAR Cup, or if that's trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I think a 3-day weekend would do well. I'm not concerned about the oversaturation in the area. I have pointed out many times before that we have tracks, in Ohio, Kentucky, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas, and all of these tracks are within 4 hours of a central area, right? You can be anywhere in that Midwestern region, and you're 4 hours from one of these tracks, Chicagoland even being. At least when we're on the Atlantic coast side, in that region, in that Tar Heel region, we are in the grassroots of where NASCAR began. And, we're talking about a facility here that's not going to seat 80,000. We're never going to look like what we look like at Bristol. When you look over the head at Bristol and you see all those empty seats, your first thing is, oh my gosh, man, like the place is empty and there's 40,000 people there. There's 50,000, sometimes 60,000 people there. The place is just so big that it doesn't really recollect with the human mind that there's still a lot of people there. It just seats a lot of people. And we've seen Indianapolis. Of course, we're coming up on this weekend. It's going to be the Indy 500. They're expecting 310,000 people there. Well, we'll show up there later on in the year with the Cup Series guys, and we may have 70, 80,000 people. That's still a good attendance. So if we're pretty much 85% full at a place like North Wilkesboro, that I think seats somewhere around 30,000 people, I think we're doing well. It's also these guys don't get much home time anymore. Of course, we're through a 28-week stretch right now, going to the end of the year where these guys have no off days. You ask these guys if they want to see North Wilkesboro somewhere in the middle of the year on the Cup schedule, I think they'll be on board for that, just for the fact that they'll be able to sleep in their own beds through most of the week there. So those are my thoughts there. And as I said, the oversaturation I'm not really too worried about. But I am very big on not coming back here again next year. Let's move it up the road and go to Rockingham. How about that?
Well, I do agree that we should rotate the All-Star race. I don't think it should always be at North Wilkesboro or always at Charlotte, North Carolina. But I like the idea of rotating it around. Jay mentioned some great tracks that they could bring back on the schedule and have an all-star race at. And if it was for a 3-year stretch, I think that would be great. And that seems to work really, really well. As far as oversaturation, I now that I'm thinking about it, you bring up some good points, Chris. I think that the fact that it's a 30,000 seating capacity, it's not going to oversaturate the area. But I do think that they could accommodate. I like the idea of doing ARCA, trucks and Xfinity for a 3-day weekend. I think that would be fantastic. And they could do that, I think, at a track like North Wilkesboro. And I think they'd get a lot of people to show up, especially for the ARCA race at North Wilkesboro, given the history of that track. So I just think that would be a good idea. Cup Series, yeah, maybe the drivers would like being close to home, but maybe put it in a different place on the schedule where they can be close at home for a little bit of a stretch. But Jay, what are your thoughts about it?
All of the above. But no, for the most part, I agree. There's one aspect that I agree with Sharon over Chris, and I'll come back to that. But Chris, we had that discussion. You're right. As a whole, I think NASCAR is aware of that. 3 to maybe 5 years. We talked about, you mentioned the Coliseum, the Bristol Dirt Race. It appears that the Chicago Street Race is in its 3rd year and maybe headed either somewhere else or not again for a little while. That they put something else on the schedule. So I think they are looking at that. And I think you're right. I think that's a very key element of, it has been good for 3 years. Let's do something different. We'll come back. The one thing I will say, as mentioned, then if we're not going to be there to race for the next year or two, then do the Xfinity and ARCA with the trucks so that the track stays. I think it was Kevin Harvick that pointed that out of, this worked for Rockingham, North Wilkesboro think about the different tracks. I'll throw one I forgot to throw out because Sharon knows I was there with the ARCA at that time, the Cannon East, Memphis Motorsports Park. Another one, help revitalize that, do it for 3 years, get it back on the map, and then whether it be another one or come back to North Wilkesboro, Rockingham, and help these tracks then build back up that sustainability by having the Xfinity. Man, I used to love the Xfinity. I had season tickets, the truck and Xfinity at Memphis, along with the K&N. At that time was the K&N. The one thing, the market area oversaturation, I think there is some validity to that. Which is part of the reason actually it kind of went away as we went to expanding. Now, do we get that big of crowds like we were in the late 90s into the 2000s? No. And Chris, you absolutely hit it right. Numbers wise, Bristol 40, 50,000 is better than even a sellout, the 30,000 at North Wilkesboro. But when TV cameras hit it, it looks empty because it seats 155 and they used to sell that out. We're not in that era no more, so I understand that perception, but what needs to happen is the people need to get the facts. It's not empty. It is more than a full sellout, but looks good, sounds good. The one thing I said I wanted to go back to, if I agree with Sharon, and I don't have the numbers, but going back, I know at certain tracks back in the day that NASCAR would only start 32, 34, or 36, and that was when they had 43 to some cars. I would love to see that of you have to race your way in. Somebody does go home. Give them points for showing up, or, the non-qualifier get points. I'm not saying that they don't have a shot at the championship no more, but you have to race your way in. I mean, I think that would be great for 1 or 2 races. The other solution or idea I have, and I can't take sole credit for it. I know NASCAR tried it once or twice. I think Brad Keselowski has pressed on it a couple of times. If you want to do North Wilkesboro as a points race and not take away from another track or whatever, do it on a Wednesday or Thursday night. Because to get 30,000 on a weeknight, I think you could still manage that. So I think that's a workable solution as well.
I like that idea.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
It would fit. It would definitely fit, and it would give the guys an extra weekend off. I was just going through the Cup schedule, and I wanted to basically, first of all, throw you something that is a wild hot take, and you can take this little bit and try to sell it on the internet. North Wilkesboro Championship racetrack. I know y'all are going to shake your head. You're crazy.
No.
You're crazy.
Yeah,
but just
no.
imagine having
No.
that facility as a place to end your season and a championship on the line. With that type of racing that we had at the end of that race, you could only imagine what it would look like if we had 4 guys in that same position battling it at that racetrack for a championship. Now, I want to go over real quick some racetracks that have either been added to the schedule in the last several years or have been revitalized or could obviously be interchangeable with a new Cup date or some new tracks, because there's several tracks out there, Chicagoland, Kentucky. These are 1.5 mile racetracks that were scratched and replaced basically with road course racing. And of course, I think 1.5 mile racetracks right now are our best package. Coda, I know that they have significant value to Texas, but Texas seems to be coming back around, right? So there's a question mark there. Mexico City, right? Hey, maybe a one and done. That's all we need, right? Chicago Street Course, definitely. That's a possibility. Iowa just now got added to the Cup schedule. I mean, 2 or 3 years there, maybe we replace it with the North Wilkesboro. St. Louis, I would hate to see St. Louis lose a race because I really enjoyed them being on the schedule, but it's definitely interchangeable. Bristol, we're all tired of the Bristol March race. Let's do something different, right? So there are areas on the schedule. There are racetracks in New Hampshire, just terrible racing in New Hampshire. Tell me one good race that we've ever seen in New Hampshire. I can't give you one. So there are definitely other tracks that we could either set idle or replace a date with. And I just think that North Wilkesboro has the eye of the viewer right now, and that. Tell me anything that Iowa done that made us believe it was going to be good for a cup date. We just went out there and did it, right? Well, hopefully we're going to connect with the fan base out there. We've seen with our own eyes for 3 years the racing in North Wilkesboro, and I think that really gives them a legitimate position to lobby for one of these dates. Miss Sharon.
Yeah, I like some of the ideas that you came up with for adding tracks either to the All-Star race or to a track to the schedule. I think all of those would be great tracks to add to the schedule. I stand firm though on the 3-year thing for the All-Star race, and I think that we can interchange tracks from, let's say, on a 3-year cycle, interchange different tracks on the schedule. I like that idea, Chris. I miss Road America. Road America was a great track to have racing. I like the Chicago Street Race. So even if they take a 3-year hiatus and come back in 3 years and kind of reinvigorate the idea. I think that there are tracks on the schedule that we could interchange and add to the schedule. I think 3 years works real well. You mentioned some great ones. Gateway, I could see coming and going. Iowa Speedway, I love Iowa Speedway. I'd like to see them on the track every year, but if it is interchangeable, if you want to take Iowa Speedway out and put Chicagoland Speedway in there for 3 years, I think that would be great. I enjoyed the racing at Chicagoland Speedway. So it's interesting to have this topic conversation. But Jay, what more do you want to say there?
I love the fact that you're open to new ideas. And yeah, I'm kind of talking specifically to Chris. But be open to all ideas then. Take away from tracks that have 2 dates. And that includes Talladega.
Don't you say it. Don't you say it.
You said you wanted to put you said you wanted to put the championship race at North Wilkesboro. We didn't agree with that, but we listened to it. Take away a Talladega race. Take away a Daytona second race. Take away a Phoenix second race.
Yeah.
I mean,
there you go. Leave the super speedways alone, buddy.
No, I mean, be open. Why would you take away from a track that only has 1 date and doing good not from one that has 2? And I'm not saying any of these are the best option. I'm just saying be open to all of the ideas. And I wanted to come back one more thing because Chris hit on this of COTA. I had heard COTA come up, but again, they only have 1 race, and it is a good market. I don't know as far as numbers wise where they're at, but we were talking about the event oversaturation. And we talked about that. I think we hit a point where, call it maybe not a knee-jerk reaction, but, road course racing is the best. And all of a sudden we had 7, 8, a third of our races were road courses. We oversaturated on the road courses. So I think we've seen that. I think we need to find that balance.
Yeah, we could rotate those road courses for sure. I don't see any reason at all why we're still racing at Sonoma every year. It's another one of those tracks that you just scratch your head like, I mean, other than the California influence, there's definitely room to play with the schedule. And we're at a great point right now where we have more tracks than we have races, right? And we could race 52 weeks out of the year because we have some exceptional tracks. But we've already eliminated the second Michigan race. We've already eliminated the second Pocono race. We've already eliminated the second New Hampshire and Dover races. So, we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Talladega's next.
No, it's not. No.
Okay, guys. We're going to have to
lights
pull an end to
Talladega.
this conversation because we got to get back to North Wilkesboro.
Messing with me.
Okay, let's talk about Heim versus Riggs in the Truck Series race and the end of that race. Jay, did you watch that? And
I most certainly did, and I most certainly have thoughts on it. Yes. Sharon, again, having been on here with you for several years, I'm a fan, or I'm okay with. I'm not saying I'm a fan of, but I'm okay with. Rubbin is racing, the bump and run. However, that was not a bump and run. Okay. Austin Dillon got DQ'd, or the win taken away, because he went into a corner with no way to stop or make the corner without hitting that car in front of him, because he was from 3 car lengths back. Lane Riggs, and I like him. He's got a lot of talent, and I think he's going to be a championship contender. However, he was not going to bump and run and make the pass because he did not have control of his own truck when he went into that corner, which then went up the track, took them both out. And he did it the week before with Carson Hocevar. When I was going to do the list of hot topics, I would have said it. Ross Chastain, Carson Hocevar, now Lane Riggs. 2 weeks in a row. Like I said, to me, that wasn't even a bump and run. He was not going to be able to make that pass. He didn't run. He did the bump or slide or slam, whatever you want to call it, but had no chance of passing and getting the lead and winning the race. Because a lot of people wanted to compare it, and I know we're going to get to that one, the Joey Logano, Christopher Bell. Again, the bump and run to win the race. You didn't win the race. I mean, first off, you can't use that argument. So, no, I was not happy with that. I wasn't particularly happy with it last week with Carson Hocevar, but there it was. Okay, it happened. That's 2 weeks in a row. Sharon, go ahead and say it. One time is an accident. Twice is
coincidence.
Third time,
it's a habit.
And I don't want to see that be the habit that Lane Riggs develops, because he's got the talent. We've seen it.
All right, Chris, what do you think? Heims versus Riggs.
Yeah, I mean, in an atmosphere where we're begging people to have some kind of personality, some kind of driver mark that we can remember them by, Lane Riggs right now, he's a topic of discussion on a predominantly Cup Series chat, right? We typically talk a lot about Cup. Well, tonight we're going to talk about Lane Riggs because Lane Riggs did something. And, I can remember a young Ross Chastain who had to make a name for himself. I think it was Dale Earnhardt that said, whether they're booing you or cheering you, what you want is for them to talk about you, right? That's exactly what we're doing right now by talking about Lane Riggs. And I think Lane has a lot of talent. He's done really well in a very short period of time. This is not anything new for Lane Riggs. He did this in the Cars Tour. He did this in the late model, divisions at Hickory and other places where he was racing beforehand. He is another son of a NASCAR driver. He knows what it takes to get to the top level. And, a win in that win column, nobody will remember 5 years from now that he wrecked somebody or pushed somebody out of the way, because that's just the style of racing that we have now. So I'm by no means bumping on Lane Riggs. I think that right now is a good time to start a rival with what could be possibly one of the biggest rising stars in NASCAR right now. That's Corey Heim. Corey Heim has a lot of talent, y'all. A lot of talent. And if you're rubbing doors with him now, then hopefully you're going to be rubbing doors with him in the future, because one thing about it, we don't know what's going to happen with Lane Riggs. We're already hearing rumors of Corey Heim making it to Cup racing. So, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I think that's exactly what Lane Riggs is out there doing right now. He's trying to make his mark one way or the other.
All right. Are you all ready? Because I'm going to get up on my soapbox.
Get up on the wheel then.
Guess what, Chris? We can't mute her.
Well, I will tell you, you make some good points, Chris. And I think you're right to a certain degree. At some point, these guys have to make a name for themselves, and this is the way they do it. However, Corey Heim has 3 wins. He has the most playoff points. I think what was it, 4 or 5?
Yeah, 21 or 24, I think already.
21 playoff points already built up. Lane Riggs is 8th in the series point standings, and only 10 drivers can get in. If some of those drivers from the bottom of the list start winning, it's going to push him further down that list. And I'm going to tell you something. It's time for somebody to sit him down and tell him, you're in the Premier Series now. This is not short track racing at your local short track. This is NASCAR racing where you have to display your talent, not the bumper car system of racing. And you're in the Truck Series. Look at the way Christopher Bell won that race in the Cup Series. And I'm going to talk about this later, but he ran a smart race. What Lane Riggs did was not smart. He's got a whole lot more to lose than Corey Heim does. He should be making friends on the track, not making enemies, because somewhere down the road, if he makes enemies and he gets into the playoffs, guess what? He's not going to last very long. Okay. It worked for him in the Cars Tour. It worked for him at the local short track. It is not going to work for him when it comes to racing in NASCAR's top 3. And the other drivers are going to let him know it. And they're going to let him know it at the right time when it's going to hurt him the most. If I were him, I'd be baking cookies and passing them out at the racetrack, because he's got to be making some friends instead of enemies. It's going to be hurting him in the long run. And first time's an accident, second time's coincidence. He's at the coincidence level. And if he gets to that 3rd level where he's making it a habit, the old boys are going to let him know. Go ahead, Jay.
No, again, normally in a situation like this, and I know we're going to get to the Bell and Logano one, I would defend the bump and run. I'm with you on this one. I don't feel that was a bump and run. That was I'm taking us both out. We ain't neither one gonna win. So that's where I stand on that. I will say this: unfortunately, with everything else, I know you mentioned he has 3 wins in his playoff points, but that's the kind of season Corey Heim is having. Again, probably had the best winning, fastest truck. Yet again, just things happening. In this case, it was another driver. The other thing I want to say I will say this. You said a driver has to sit him down or talk to him. I heard or saw social media, which social media is what it is, referring to, I'm going to use the word punk, but calling Heim out for bowing up and then not doing anything. I thought he handled himself very well. He expressed his frustration. I don't even think pointed a finger or anything, but let him know, and that was it. You don't have to throw a punch. And I know we've talked about that. I'm not saying that at some point there doesn't come a time where that might happen, but I think he's showing great maturity in handling himself. He did the march over, and but again, nobody else got involved. Nobody had to hold him back because he just expressed it and then walked away. So I thought that was great. If it happens, I'm not going to say, we got to suspend him, but I don't think it has to happen every time either. So I thought he handled himself well. I think as a maturing driver, I thought he did a great job in handling it. Probably better than I would have.
Well, no doubt, Corey, Lane Riggs has talent. He just has to use his talent to win those races versus the bumper.
Let me say that real quick. You talked about making a name for himself. To me, he made himself a name last year when he wasn't in the playoffs, went out and was winning the playoff races during that against the drivers that were in the playoffs. But he did it cleanly with the fast truck and a good truck and drove it. that's where he made his name to me. To me right now, he's erasing his name.
Exactly. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, walking down pit lane at the end of the race, having to do an interview, all of that gave, Corey a chance to really evaluate what he was going to do in that situation. It definitely is a lot better than the way Clint Boyer handled it with Jeff Gordon, if you remember that. So when you're taking your time, most of the time you get your thoughts together. I'm like you, Jay. I don't think that every situation deserves a punch to be thrown. I think that when you're a guy, mostly a guy, especially a young guy, it wasn't as many times as I got into a fight. It was how many times that I didn't have to fight because I pretty much let the people know you didn't want to mess with me. And I think that was the point that he got across at that time. We are not WWE, though it is fun at times to think that we are. I also want to bring a quote from the great Uncle T. I came here to race. I brought my own friends. And I think that that's a statement that forever lives in a racer. I'm not there to make friends with you. I'm there to race. I'll bring my own friends. It worked for Ty Gibbs. That's my last point. It worked for Ty Gibbs. He wrecked everybody and their mama. It worked for him. He made the Cup. So it's kind of hard to not say that Lane, you express that Corey Heim has 3 wins, and that is the reason above all, right? If NASCAR is going to allow you to go up as a second place car and basically take out the first place car and not be penalized for it, I think back in the day you would probably have gotten a black flag. These days it seems to be the norm. That win, it reminds me of Chris Buescher, right? Christopher Buescher, when he went up to Tyler Reddick and basically was like, dude, I don't have a sticker, right? And that's kind of the mindset that I think Lane Riggs is in right now. He knows the importance of what it's going to take to have to win. There's always 2 or 3 jokers added to the mix, hooligans. But when you go to these super speedway races, or somebody lucks up who's running 18th or 19th all year, all of a sudden they find themselves in victory lane. It happens every year. So if I am Lane Riggs, I am. The most important thing, and this is something I think that they'll probably sit down, Bob Jenkins and the crew over at Fan4Racing Motorsports, and tell them, look, what you're missing here is 2 weekends in a row you had a chance to win. You were in position. And I think that in itself will give him a better frame of mind going into the next few races, that maybe I don't have to overdrive the car. Maybe I don't have, or a truck, I should say. Maybe I don't have to overdrive right now. Maybe I just sit back and allow things to kind of take place. And I believe in the next few races, you'll see Lane Riggs in victory lane. Sometimes it's the learning curve, right? That's why these guys are in these lower series, that they still have to learn. And let me tell you something. My best way of learning is making mistakes. I hate making mistakes, but y'all, if I really had to look back in my life, I'd say the mistakes is what made me who I am today, and I'll still make a lot more. But when I make a mistake, the one thing that I always try to do is I try to make it right the next time. And I think that those mistakes create the character, create the racer, create the ability to say, wait a minute, I better not do that. And so kind of it goes with what I said with Corey, by not having to swing a punch, he made his statement. And I think Lane Riggs respects that, because instead of it being a bunch of hurt feelings, you can pretty much say, yeah, man, I was probably a douchebag. I probably didn't do that right. Where if you throw a punch at me, it's going to be hurt feelings, and I'm going to be really wanting to retaliate on you, especially if I didn't see a reason for you to really throw a punch. So I think it was a gentleman's act, and that goes a long way. Respect, RESPECT.
It does go a long way, and I respect what Corey Heim did, and I respect that Lane Riggs does have a great deal of talent. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think anybody is questioning that. And you are absolutely right. I wrote it down, and right after I wrote it down, you said it. It's a learning curve. These guys are on a learning curve when they come into the truck series, and that's where they learn some of these things that we're talking about. If you look at the difference between what Christopher Bell did in the Cup Series and what Lane Riggs did in the Truck Series, it is a world of difference. And I know Joey Logano, well, we'll talk about it in a few minutes. I'm not going to get into that just yet. But there's a world of difference between those two races. And the finesse that is what Lane Riggs needs to learn at this point. Yes, I know he's in desperate mode, but he's going to put himself in a more desperate mode if he keeps moving down the points standings, because he's doing these kind of things. And you're right, Bob Jenkins needs to sit down with him and say, 2 races in a row, you had a chance to win and you didn't win. Do you know why you didn't win? And let him answer that question, because he didn't win because he shot himself in the foot with the way he reacted in that race. So I 100% agree with you there. And it is a learning curve. He's going to have to, hopefully he won't get to the habit stage that we talked about. But I think that Lane Riggs is a smart guy. He's going to figure it out. But I want him to figure it out before he goes any further down the standings on the points list. I think what burned probably Corey Heim the most is that Riggs finished in second place while Corey Heim moved down to 17th. And if I was him, I'd be pretty ticked off about that too. And he handled it extremely well. He handled it like a professional race car driver. And I love that part of it because I don't like the WWE side of NASCAR. He handled it like a professional race car driver. These guys are at the professional level when they get to the NASCAR Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup Series. They need to handle themselves in that manner. And one thing I will say about Joey Logano, that guy said a lot with a smile on his face, even though he was super ticked off. He had a smile on his face the whole time, which I thought was pretty amazing. Jay, what are your thoughts?
No, I pretty much covered it. I think, you mentioned, like I say, Ty Gibbs. I think we saw the change in Ty Gibbs. There were some incidences in the Xfinity Series, and he was reprimanded for that because he wasn't getting that message. I'm hoping Lane Riggs gets that message before somebody else has to step in and give it to him, whether that be a driver with their knuckles, or NASCAR with the fine or suspension or whatever else road they go. Like I said, to me, if you were to use the philosophy that NASCAR did when they took Austin Dillon's away, of you had no chance of making that corner regardless, just because you did it from a half car length away versus 3 car lengths away, it was clearly obvious with Austin Dillon. To me, that one was the same. There wasn't a chance you were making that corner driving in like that anyhow. And I go back to, again,
that could happen, Jay? Is there still a chance that could happen?
Oh yeah. I mean, like you guys said, if the owner says, especially if now you said it, of that learning lesson may be, we don't make the playoffs because you've given up too many points by this. And that goes back to both. You were talking about that of not making enemies. I think that may be why Corey Heim handled himself that way of, hey, if I punch this dude in the face, we get to the playoffs, he's mad, I get taken out of a playoff race, I'm out of the championship hunt type deal. Again, I think that Corey Heim has had his moments as well, but he's already gone by him. I'm with you, Sharon. I think the maturity and professionalism that we saw from him, maybe the longer, slower walk was better for him than you referenced Clint Boyer, but not nearly as entertaining. The Clint Boyer sprint was hilarious, but I think they are learning that. And again, NASCAR isn't automatically going to go to a fine or suspension when it comes to altercations on pit road, but why put yourself in that position as well? Of, hey, if I do this, am I going to get a loss of points? And I'm thinking of Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch. And I agreed with NASCAR on that one. Ricky had 2 hours to think about it. It wasn't an immediate out of the car reaction. And Heim's had the walk, okay, so you're still maybe, hey, you could have cooled off a little, but, with Stenhouse, it was 2+ hours.
Yeah.
Although he was penned in instead of being able to walk away, he had to stay there. But no, I thought he handled it well, and I do hope, like I said, to me, I became a Lane Riggs fan, and he made his name last year when he went out there and was winning races in the playoffs when he was a non-playoff driver. And I expected him to be a championship contending driver this year, and I think he could be. I just a little bit of maturity, I think, would go a long way.
Okay, Chris, you get to pick the next hot topic.
Yeah, I was looking over it. I've got something for all of them. Let's just go with the Brian Preece versus the Choose Cone. Ryan sounded almost desperate in his interview there, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. We'll start with you, Jay.
All right, this one, man, heartbreaking. When we look at it, and Sharon and I talked about this on the preview of Ryan Preece being in that position. If he doesn't win, he's eligible for the fan vote. Fans vote based on whatever they want because it's a fan vote. Of those drivers, I said he was one of the ones that as a whole has had the best year so far as racing, just didn't have that win or top finish. He's kind of been the lead car for RFK overall for the season. So, I mean, it was extremely heartbreaking. However, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy as far as his argument. Said he couldn't see it. They all know where it was. The trucks ran there on Friday night. You had the open. All these tracks are the same that's painted on the track, okay? Go all the way down to the bottom wall. I mean, you know where it is. And he was right dead center of the track. I just think he missed it. I think he made a mistake. It's kind of like speeding on pit road. Be like, oh, I didn't know that was the end of the speed zone. No, come on. So, from that aspect, no, I can't. He violated the rule. I mean, and again, what do we have? Half the field, so 20 some other cars out there. How many restarts? Nobody else made that mistake because they couldn't see it. Just not buying it. Sorry. I mean, I felt bad for him without a doubt, but yeah, you made a mistake, dude.
Yeah, I think Ryan Preece probably would have won that race had it not been for that blunder. And I'm sure this was covered in the drivers' meeting as well. There was an orange line on the wall that was supposed to be an alert that the Choose Cone is coming up. And I don't know if the spotter maybe could have helped him or if the spotters do help them when it comes to the Choose Cone of identifying where it's at. I think you guys are right. I think he just misjudged where that Choose Cone was and ended up running over it. And it was a costly mistake because he could have raced himself into the All-Star race. If it wasn't a first place finish, I'm sure he would have been a second place finish if he didn't win it. So I think he would have raced himself into the All-Star race had it not been for that. I hate it for him because I like Ryan Preece. I think he's a good driver. I think he's a pretty methodical driver most of the time. And the excuse, it was hard to see, but you're right, Jay. The other drivers all saw it. They all made the Choose Cone in the appropriate manner. They made their decisions ahead of time and did not go over it. So NASCAR did paint it, though, to make it more visible for the All-Star race. I give them kudos for that. In between the races, they sent somebody out there to paint it so that they could see it. But that orange line was supposed to be the alert that the Choose Cone was coming up. And so I think he probably should have seen it. So, Chris, it's time for us to hear from you.
So, I mean, I kind of want to start it with this. I've got a couple of notes here. First of all, we're all talking about Mr. Irrelevant in the sports world. Mr. Irrelevant is a a terminology given to the last draft pick of the NFL draft. And it just so happened 3 years ago, a guy by the name of Brock Purdy was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers as a last pick. The first pick was actually a guy by the name of Trey Lance, who is no longer with the 49ers. This Mr. Irrelevant just signed a contract for $250 million. He's no longer Mr. Irrelevant. And how does that pertain? How does that pertain to Ryan Preece? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because for the last 4 or 5 years, and really almost Ryan Preece's entire racing career in NASCAR, he's played this Mr. Irrelevant role, right? So he had one season, I believe, where he raced a full season in the nationwide Xfinity Series. And then he come back the next year and only did a limited schedule with Joe Gibbs. So, and in that limited schedule, we've seen a brief idea of the type of driver that Ryan Preece could be. Since then, and he's had several cup rides before this one, including the JTG ride and as well as over at Stewart-Haas. In both of those situations, Ryan Preece has been Mr. Irrelevant. And what I mean by that is basically he's been in cars. Unfortunately, even when the Stewart-Haas stint, they weren't where they were supposed to be. The cars were just not very competitive. So now you wake up this year and Ryan Preece is at RFK. And let me tell you something, for the last 2 years, we've all been in shock and awe over how well RFK has run. Something has them snake bit, except it seems to be for Ryan Preece. And even Ryan Preece has found himself in these odd situations where Mr. Irrelevant kind of continues to bite him in his tail. Now, Jay and Sharon, in the business world, sometimes we are so focused on certain things that we forget the basics, right? And Mike Tyson said it best. We all have a game plan until we get punched in the mouth. And I'm sure that at the time that Ryan Preece was going for that choose cone, he had a lot of things going on in his head, probably with his crew chiefs. He was in a position to win this race. And sometimes you just allow things, simple things like watching in front of you and noticing where these cars are making a left or where they are making a right. Though his eyes were probably peeled on nothing more than the racetrack, the comprehension wasn't there. And a lot of that is probably the anxiety that Ryan Preece has to be going through this year, knowing that finally, out of all of these years, since the first time since he was a backup driver at Joe Gibbs Racing, he has the ability to win. And it's over anxiousness. It's you know, as we said about Heim, who learned with Ty Gibbs a few years ago. You know, when you get into certain rivals with people, sometimes it comes around and bites you in the tail, as it did with Corey Heim for being passed up at a Joe Gibbs Racing car, right? So Ryan Preece is finally in this position now to be able to show his true talent on the racetrack, and the old Mr. Irrelevant keeps biting him in his tail. And, you know, it's unfortunate. Ryan's got to shake it off, but when he come on there and he used some lame excuse that he couldn't see the choose cone, look, or needed a cone out there, couldn't see the painted. If he was paying attention and locked in the way that a championship driver would be, he wouldn't have missed the fact of where these guys were making their lefts and making their rights. Obviously, something had him distracted. Maybe he's in a little bit over his head. Maybe it's a little bit of anxiety. He knows that his time is running out. This is his third cup team. If he doesn't make a solid move here and maybe prove to the world that he is a legitimate driver, this is his best opportunity. This is his best opportunity. And with that comes a lot of weight.
And to a certain degree, I agree with you. I don't think that Ryan Preece is a champion in the Whelen Modified Series. So I think he's handled pressure in the past. But I do think that this is a different stage. It's more visible. There's a lot more exposure and all of that sort of thing. But some of what you're saying is speculation, and we got to be careful when we speculate. Ryan Preece, that's not what Ryan Preece said. We can all speculate on what it might have been or what he didn't say. But in the end, it was a mistake. And the bottom line is that it was a mistake.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to know what I misquoted, because I didn't use his quotation marks, but he basically said that he could not see where the choose cone was because it wasn't
when you
visible.
said he was distracted and not paying attention.
Oh, but I mean, that's just an assumption that maybe he probably wasn't.
That's an assumption and a speculation, yeah. So,
right. So that's illegal? I thought
it's not illegal. It's just that you got to be careful when you get into assumptions and speculations, because some people will take it as a fact. So a lot of times we've got to make it really clear that we're speculating or assuming what it is, because it's not a fact that he was distracted. We don't know if he was distracted or what happened. We know that he missed the choose cone, and it could be for any number of reasons that he missed it. But the fact is he made a mistake, and I think we all agree on that. Even him, he agrees that he made a mistake and that it hurt him in the long run. And I think he probably learned from the mistake that he made. Ryan Preece is a pretty smart guy. And we all make mistakes. And like you said earlier, Chris, it's when we make mistakes that we learn the most. So I think that that's probably the case here. Is there some pressure on him? There probably is. I would say that he's probably the best car at Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing this year. Chris Buescher has shown some signs. Brad Keselowski has shown some signs. But as far as finishing out the races and finishing in the top 10, Ryan Preece has pretty much done that for most of this first half of the season. So I think he'll learn from it. There was really no excuse for it. And I think he knows that. So we just kind of move on from here. Jay, what's your follow-up?
Well, and this came up on Sirius XM. It was almost like NASCAR validated. I know, Sharon, you said you made the comment that they went out and painted it. That was almost NASCAR validating that, hey, you're right, it can't be seen. But they did talk about that. There are the side markings on the wall. And again, go back to the sheer numbers from the truck race and every other track, because again, it's not like another track. It's easier to see the pavement in front of the car than this one or anything. So, yeah, how come nobody else has missed it all year or complained about that if you can't see it or know where it is on each and every track? The one thing, and thinking about this now, I really liked last year where I think it was for both the Open and the All-Star, they had a drone hovering with a sign right there, over that spot. I thought that was really cool and inventive, and why they couldn't do every race. We see that some things they test during the All-Star exhibition race and then implement into points races. Chris and I are from and this is where it came from, was your local short tracks. I'm not going to say dirt. I've seen it more on dirt, but I saw it at Huntsville, which was an asphalt racetrack, and really got to understand it. And I was excited when NASCAR went to it because I had seen it in action at Huntsville when we went up there. That was the first time I got to see it in action. So, but there they do have the physical cone. Chris will know this with the sprint car series. They have it tied to a rope, and then as the cars go by, they drag it back in. I understand, yeah. And now I understand that's not a capability at a track, where you have an inside wall or whatever. But I think there are some options that could be looked at versus it just painted onto the track. But again, go back and by the sheer numbers, X number of cup cars, other cup cars saw it, went around it. Trucks saw it, went around it. Even if you don't see it, if you're down all the way to the inside wall or outside wall, you got a full lane, you ain't going to touch it. So like I said, I really can't justify it.
Keep in mind,
Other than that,
the truck race, it was freshly painted. The modifieds had run earlier in the day, and that's when it got kind of undone, if you will, worn off. Chris?
Yeah, all right.
You get the final word there. You're muted.
He muted himself.
He muted himself too this week. Go ahead.
The point is it's a lane excuse.
Yes, it is.
Did you
Final
get that?
word?
Did you get that?
Yep.
Lane excuse.
Lane excuse. I got it.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, I'd have to agree with that.
Okay. Jay, I think we're back to you to pick the next hot topic.
All right. Well, I know we got the list up there, but they're not necessarily in order. So we were comparing. Let's talk about the Christopher Bell versus Joey Logano incident. Be clear on that. The incident between the two of them. This is one where I know, Sharon, you might have a different opinion because you want to see the just clean pass every time. I felt like that was an acceptable bump and run, a little bit of nudging. For me, the big difference was Bell had been on him, bumped him a couple of times, got alongside of him, just couldn't complete the pass. He was there and racing with him, didn't just all of a sudden drive into him and not have control of his car. And that was seen by, he gave him that little nudge. Joey went up the track, and Bell drove underneath him and drove, to the finish and won the race. That, to me, I'm okay with. Do I want to see it all the time? No. If they can run a clean pass, got it. But I'm okay with the bump and run, but not the dump and run. And that's where I view the difference. And I'm one that on a more regular case will defend Joey Logano, but he even said it himself of, if I get back to him, I'm going to do it. Well, even if you'd have been in second and him in first, the first go around, you'd have initiated it. We all know that. So again, I understand why people have the opinion of Joey Logano. They do. That he's okay if he does it. It's hard racing then. Do what you got to do to win. But when somebody does it to him, it's wrong. And this is one where I got no defense for Joey, because we all, I think, can agree that he'd have done it had he been running in second and faster than the guy in front of him. So I'm all good with it.
Okay, Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's short track racing. They expect it. Christopher Bell wanted it. $1 million is on the line. Had Joey Logano been given a chance to get back up there and ruffle his feather, I'm sure that he would have. I'm not speculating. I don't want to speculate because that gets me in trouble. But I mean, Christopher Bell did what he had to do to win the race, and it wasn't just one bump, y'all. This was several bumps. As a matter of fact, had it been the old style car, you would have been a fender. Somebody would have had a flat tire, but they were literally able to rub fenders for several laps, multiple times, I should say, at least. And Christopher Bell finally did what it took to get around him. And Joey was defeated at the caution, obviously, because it upset him so much. So if he wouldn't have been so upset about the caution, maybe he could have raced Bell a little bit harder and not fell into the trap, because Bell set him up. That's point blank. Bell set him up, and Bell felt like he knew what Joey would do. And so he went out with a certain game plan, and he succeeded.
Yes, he did. And let me just say this. You can speculate. Just make sure you're saying, in my opinion, or I'm speculating, just so it's clear that people don't take it as fact. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to surprise you, Jay. I saw bumping and banging all week long, and I expected to see bumping and banging all weekend long. I expected to see that at a short track like North Wilkesboro. And you're right. They were bumping and banging. They weren't taking each other out. And Christopher Bell didn't take Joey Logano out. Joey Logano still finished second. He didn't like finishing second. He wanted to finish first. But let's keep in mind, he was also on older tires. He did not pit at the same time that Christopher Bell pitted. And Christopher Bell was on 4 fresh tires. I watched the closing laps of those races, and Christopher Bell, I thought, raced like an intelligent race car driver. He was very smart. He was very methodical. He followed behind when he tried a couple of times to pass Joey Logano, and it didn't work out. What was happening is he noticed that behind him, Alex Bowman and Ross Chastain were gaining on them every time he was going after Joey Logano. I lost my audience here. Both of you guys are out. I felt like I was talking to myself. Anyway, so Christopher Bell, or not Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman and Ross Chastain were gaining on him as he was trying to go after Joey Logano. He was using up his tires. They were using up their tires. He eased back a little bit and he eased back enough that the other 2 cars, let me put it this way. He eased back in a way that the other 2 drivers fell back further because they were still battling with one another, but he was starting to gain again on Joey Logano. He let enough space get between him, Alex Bowman, and Ross Chastain, and he got closer to Joey Logano. And when he felt that they were far enough back, he tried again. And yeah, he did. He put the bumper to him. He did not wreck him out of the race, and I had no issue with that. That was a bump and run. And I don't think he did anything egregiously wrong in racing Joey Logano. I think Joey Logano was more upset about the promoter's caution, and I know we'll talk about that too. And he felt that there was a beef between him and Marcus Smith, and that caution was thrown at a point that was disadvantageous to him. So I think he had more of an issue there than he had with Christopher Bell, because you're right. He would have done exactly, and maybe even worse, to Christopher Bell if it came down to him winning the race. But Christopher Bell had put enough space between him to show he had the speed to beat Joey Logano, because he was on those 4 fresher tires while Joey Logano was still battling with older tires. So I think I didn't see that Christopher Bell did anything wrong there. I thought he raced a very intelligent race, and I would like to see more drivers race that way. He showed his talent, and I love those kind of races where you show your talent, you show your intellect, and you go out there and you race your competitor. And he did that with Joey Logano, and I loved it. So I was happy with the ending of that race, Jay.
Well, and I know you're right. You're a lot more accepting or aware of it as it comes to short tracks, because you both, Chris, both said it. That is short track racing, especially at a narrower, or I shouldn't say narrow because they can go 4 wide. But it was more of a 1 lane, at least on burning up tires. You hit on a couple of very key points, I thought, and one that I hadn't really thought about, but you're right. He was setting them up. And that's where I go to again. It wasn't that he just drove in there and even bumped and run on that first shot. I mean, he worked on him. He raced him. He came back a little bit. He tried again. But I think you brought up a very key point that I hadn't even really thought about of, hey, it's go time now, because I got 2 that are going to start putting the bumper to me. So I got to be a little more aggressive. And I think back, and I know where you're coming from, Sharon, of if you can do it cleanly. the Martinsville race between Joey Logano, coincidentally, and Martin Truex. Martin Truex worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And I'll say worked like 10 more times and passed Joey clean. The next corner, Joey went in there, ran into him, and got back by him. But again, those type of drivers are very far and few between. I thought Christopher Bell did, again, very patiently and methodically. Like I said, I mean, they got alongside, and, Chris mentioned it. With this car, you can get alongside and rub and bump a little bit and not cut the tire that we used to see with the fenders, the non-composite cars, however you want to call them back in the day. But so I like that. And you pointed it out. If it had been reversed, would Joey's have been a little more aggressive? I would have to say probably so, but and we'll get. I know. Yeah, right. No, Joey not being happy about the caution flag, that's not speculation. He made that very clear in his interview. Yes. I'm mad, but I have a smile on my face because I think he knew it. The other factor you hit on was he had to be aware he had older tires, so again, I think it's one of those of, I just don't want to accept the defeat. We got outrun, we got outsmarted. The tire thing didn't work. I just don't want to admit it. I feel like, that's one of those. And like I said, I like Joey as a driver overall, but I understand why people have the opinion of him. Because in this case, I don't think you have any room to talk knowing that you probably would have done the same thing. So
Tommy would have agreed with all of us tonight.
Well, right. Yeah, that's what I'd be like. I'm sure Tommy would be like, man, I wish he'd have put him in the wall. No, I don't want to see that either. But no, I in this case, I understand why fans say what they do. If you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it.
Yep. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speculate, but I feel like Joey Logano definitely races with a chip on his shoulder. And it's been very successful for him up to this point. The realization is he didn't want to admit that the younger guy racing his old car just beat him. And so Joey had to find some kind of excuse out there. I'm just speculating. Some kind of excuse out there other than Christopher Bell just drove his ass off and was able to beat him. And that's hard for a driver or any sports figure to give credit to, especially those that play at a type of level that Joey Logano does. There's always the first round draft pick, and it's been easy for him from day one. And then you got your Tom Brady's of the sport who got shifted in a draft and had to prove themselves and have always been questioned of whether or not. And that's kind of the Joey Logano story. It was all cookies and cream the first couple of years when he was a Joe Gibbs Toyota, Joe Gibbs development driver. But once he got up to the 20 car and replaced Tony Stewart, it got a lot harder than what he was expecting. He was also thrown in a fire. And then he was fired. And, I go back to the fact that if it wasn't for A.J. Allmendinger flunking a drug test, we may have never got to see the Joey Logano 3-time champion. I mean, you just got to look back on it. History has a way of making itself, right? Mm-hmm. And so, Joey took the best of an opportunity. He went to Penske Racing. They've won 3 championships together. He's been one of the best drivers. I mean, how many other drivers can you say have 3 championships, right? There's only a couple of guys, 3 guys that have 7 championships. And then from that point on, there's a whole lot of drivers that have 0 championships. Joey Logano is a 3-time Cup champion. But guess what? There was a time when Dale Earnhardt was winning championships. Then Jeff Gordon come along. Dale Earnhardt didn't win any more championships. And then there was a guy named Jimmy Johnson who come along in the Jeff Gordon era. And guess what? When Jimmy Johnson won a championship, Jeff Gordon never won another championship. That's real. That's fact. Christopher Bell, he's proven this year he is here. He ain't going nowhere. He's one of the best drivers in the garage. Move over, Joey Logano. You probably just won your last championship if Christopher Bell wins it at the end of this year. But that's just speculating.
And I'm going to speculate too. I think you might be right. I think that Again, we don't know this, but I think Joey Logano might have been upset that Christopher Bell did it without wrecking him. And he did it in a good old short track racing kind of way. It might not be the case, but it's a good possibility, I think. So I got you there.
Can I say one more thing, Miss Sharon, real quick before anything? I believe it was like 2012. I was at Talladega Super Speedway, and it was an Xfinity race. I believe it was 2012. I have to go back and look. And look, there were a lot of doubters with Joey Logano. I watched Joey Logano come off of turn 4 and go into the tri-oval running second to Kyle Busch. And everybody figured Kyle Busch had the win. Like, it was a done deal. But you know what? This kid named Joey Logano, you know what he did? He stuck it out there on the outside, and he hammered down. And when they crossed that start-finish line, Joey Logano won that race. And I'm sure Kyle Busch felt the same way that Joey Logano felt this past weekend, that one got away. That one got away by the kid. And the kid has arrived, and his name's Christopher Bell, and I am on his bandwagon.
It's a good speculation. Now,
do I get to speculate in all this?
Yes.
Y'all are talking about these two. Kyle Larson.
Start with the speculation.
Kyle Larson has got something to say about who wins this championship.
Yes. Christopher Bell might be winning the battle, but who knows who's going to win the championship. Kyle Larson is certainly wanting it. But let me just say this. Joey Logano is a really talented guy. I just would rather see him show his talent like Christopher Bell did this weekend versus just wrecking a guy to win a race, because to me that degrades his talent and his 3 championships when he does that. It's degrading to himself. And so I really think Joey Logano needs to stop and look at what Christopher Bell did this weekend. If he could do that and win races, he would not be booed at the racetracks. It's when he's wrecking these other drivers and he says he's selfish. He knows he's selfish, but he needs to let go of that selfishness and embrace his talent and show that talent on the track. So that's just me, and that's just the way I look at it. But Jay, will let you have the last word on it.
Well, you know, we talked about this a little earlier. Sometimes a driver needs to sit them down and have a talk with them, or come out at Martinsville and just stuff them in the wall, as Matt Kenseth did, because I think he got a message there. I'm tired of this. There was no doubt he wasn't happy. Again, I've been a Joey Logano fan. That was one where I applauded Matt Kenseth. I mean,
you and a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, I mean, that was one where you got no argument, Joey. You've done this a couple weeks in a row, and I think that was the year Joey had won all 3 playoff races in a round. So again, took out Matt Kenseth. I think it was at either Kansas or Kentucky, and that goes back to Chris. You mentioned it earlier. Kenseth didn't have that win to guarantee him the next round, whereas Joey already did. And so he knew he had nothing to lose because he was already in. And Matt was like, hey, that was unnecessary. You beat me. That's one thing. But you just take me out to get your 3rd win when you're already locked in. Yeah. I vividly remember that race. Yeah. I remember that. Absolutely. So what's next?
Final thought. Can I get a final thought on that?
Yes.
Can I please? And it's probably going to be a little controversial. There's a reason why we don't have too many Formula One talk shows. Man, me and you could have that discussion all day, Chris. There's just not enough storylines, because that series is full of a bunch of vanilla drivers that are afraid to speak their mind, that are afraid to race the way that they. And Formula One has a very strong hold on their drivers. And let me tell you, the things that NASCAR drivers get away with, they would never get away with that in Formula One. But we've had
that discussion, yeah.
But there's a reason why there's not very many Formula One.
But talent can be part of the discussion. I mean, I loved the way Christopher Bell raced this weekend. that can be the storyline. And I think we've seen, I remember a race between Matt Kenseth and Jeff Burton where they were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at the end of that race, they had their arms out the window, congratulating each other on a race well run. And you could tell there was a friendship there. There was a lot of respect. And I think that can be a big storyline. Whose turn is it? I've lost track of whose turn.
I think it might be yours, Sharon.
Is it my turn?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. Ryan Preece. Promoter's caution. Let's talk about the promoter's caution. Because that was something of discussion. And one of the things that I think Joey Logano was truly upset about is when that caution was thrown. I know I talked to Sal a little bit about it earlier on the review shows, and I think he thought it was pretty predictable about when that caution was going to be flown. But he also had some comments about it being Michael Waltrip up in the flag stand. So, Jay, what are your thoughts about the promoter's caution?
Well, okay, first go around, I'll just stick to the promoter's caution itself. When they talked about gonna do it for the All-Star race, you either thought it was a good idea or you didn't. I'm okay with it. It was an All-Star exhibition race. I don't care what antics you do. Again, it's all about putting on a show. And I'll bring that up again after. I'm trying to think how I said it earlier, Sharon, of if you didn't know that was when that caution was kind of come out at that point in the race, I don't know what word to use, but you got your head in the sand because, I mean, that was, especially this first time out with introducing it, they were going to use it. I mean, I understand it wasn't because somebody was out front, and initially when they were talking about it, call it the Kyle Larson flag, just in case he's 5 seconds out in front. Or from last year's All-Star race, Joey Logano did pretty much dominate that one. So was it necessary at that point? I don't think so.
I was out front by a second or so.
I don't even know if it was a full second. Several car lengths, without a doubt, and I don't know that Bell was going to catch him then without it. Kyle Larson had hit the wall, and I really thought the caution was going to come out anyway via natural need for it. As they talked about it on Sirius XM, and I had already deleted my recording of it, so they said Kyle Larson got going, and they think that the caution wouldn't have come out naturally. But again, you had to. I don't understand how you could not see it coming anyway. So I don't understand where Joey, and they said it multiple times. There's one driver that's going to be upset with it, and 20, however many that we're going to be like, all right, good choice. We got a shot again. So yeah, I mean, don't hate on Joey Logano for hating on the caution flag. Whoever was in the lead and it cost them their lead, they were going to be upset. I think the only way that it really wasn't going to be used is if you had a side-by-side drag race going on, and then they wouldn't have. Other than that, it was going to come out and upset one driver, and like I said, 20 some others were going to be okay with it. And I'll go into the antics, we'll call it, on my second go round.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is an all-star race, right? This wasn't an exhibition race. This wasn't the Clash. This was the all-star race, and it had more laps on it this year than it did last year. Typically, if you've been around for a while and you remember the Charlotte All-Star races, they were typically broken up in 3 different segments, and they had some elimination races at times where people were actually eliminated, or they had times where the fan voted to invert the field. This was used as, I guess, a promoter's caution is what they named this, but this is nothing more than basically letting the drivers know, everybody in the field, everybody on the same level playing field, that there was going to be a re-rack and stack with probably a short amount of laps left to go. And you should have strategized that. Like you would strategize your pit stop that was involved in qualifying. There's just certain strategies. I remember one year Burton figured out a way in the rule book or whatever for how they had it, and he come in and pitted, right? He just outthought them. The team outthought. Yes. It's like everybody thought that this promoter's caution, or as a SRX, I believe, called it the fun flag, that they should have expected it, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it when SRX did it. I kind of don't like it with this one. I feel like it wasn't really on Michael Waltrip when the flag was going to come. It was predetermined. I'm pretty sure. Now, that's speculation. That's the perfect definition of it, right? So, I do believe, that, we basically got stage racing from this idea of segment racing from all-star events, right? Where we are at today, instead of having a phantom caution to re-rack and stack, as NASCAR had so many years before, it relied on a water bottle coming out of the car or whatever. It was preemptive. They told you this was gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny when I can't even read my own writing. Yeah, and so if anything, the one thing that I never really figured out is there's only one person that's going to win $1 million. One driver, that's it. But we talk about this team racing at Talladega and Daytona and how the manufacturers are so tied up into this. Why is it that somebody from a backmarker tier 2 team, maybe a Chevy camp or a Ford camp, why don't they create the caution that would give somebody else, maybe in that 4th or 5th spot, the ability to re-rack and stack? Because you're not going to win the $1 million. I guess it just shows that as much as people want to make NASCAR WWE in reality, there are still some basic rules that we do follow, because they can make it wacky as heck if they wanted to. I know that's a little bit out there or whatever, but what I want to get back to is the fact of it that everybody was on the same rules. They all knew that this was going to happen. And, the fact that we even needed it, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if we needed that particular. Let me just put this. I'm not sure if we needed it to make it a good race or not, but I see why NASCAR did it. And as I said before, the All-Star event has been a growing ground of things to try and not to try. Unfortunately, this promoter's caution has been used in many different definitions or terminologies throughout racing, and it just, I don't really think it worked. We should have just said, okay, with 30 laps to go, we're going to re-rack and stack. Maybe even invert the field. Maybe even turn it into a figure 8. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe Miss Sharon, you can.
Figure 8. Wow, I wouldn't like that. That would be.
It's a gimmick.
It's a gimmick. I will say this. Do you remember a few years back, I think they had the reversal. I forget what they called it, but they reversed the field.
Invert.
That's the invert. Yep.
Invert. Yeah, they inverted the field at a certain point of the race, and drivers are strategizing how to deal with the invert of the field, and that's how they were trying to race. At least the smart ones were doing that. And I think about, again, I talked about how smart Christopher Bell ran that race. Don't think for a minute that he wasn't thinking about that promoter's caution, because he was. And that's, if Joey Logano sits back and really thinks about that, he should have been strategizing around that promoter's caution, because all of us who are not race car drivers knew that promoter's caution was going to come out somewhere around the time that it did. So Joey Logano was not strategizing for that. And so I know he's probably thinking about that at this point of the game. And I know a lot of people are not happy with the promoter's caution because they think that it's gimmicky. But if they're going to do a gimmicky thing, it's the All-Star race that they should be doing these gimmicky kind of things, because it is about entertaining the fans. And it did entertain. Now, if I'm a Joey Logano fan, I probably didn't like that promoter's caution any more than Joey Logano liked it. And I get that. If you're a Joey Logano's fan, you probably were not happy.
That's not true. I am a Joey Logano fan.
Oh,
and
you
the
are?
way that,
Okay.
And the way that Christopher Bell raced him, there was no reason for me to be upset at all.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
So, I mean, if he had gotten wrecked, I may have seen it like Carl Edwards did with Joey Logano. Look, it was ridiculous to race me like that, but it didn't end that way. And Christopher Bell earned his win. And so I think in the end, as a Joey Logano fan, that basically it didn't bother me at all. Like, it was great racing. We finally could walk away with an All-Star with a positive review and not have to reflect as one hot night being the one time that the All-Star race was actually fun.
Yes.
And it wasn't fun. Davey Allison went to the hospital and had a severe head concussion. And
that's not good.
Well, the one hot night, the All-Star race that made everything what it is today. That wasn't. It's advertised as this greatest race ever, but if you were a Davey Allison fan and seen the way that Kyle Petty, basically wrecked him to win, that wasn't very fun. I mean,
that wasn't. But we didn't see that this week,
right,
at North Wilkesboro Speedway, and I just think that Christopher Bell again. I just can't praise him enough for the way he raced that race. I think he's a very smart driver. And I think he showed that this week at North Wilkesboro Speedway. So you made my case for me, I guess. Some Logano fans are maybe not happy with that, and I'm speculating there. But I do think that Joey Logano, if he reflects on this, may have a different perspective. He was talking in the heat of the moment, and I understand his frustration. But Jay, what do you have to say to kind of finish this up?
Well, it goes back to, if we're going to go the second time around here, you guys use the word gimmicky, and I think that's a good word. I'm with what you all both have said. The All-Star race is the place to do it. Some of the things then do develop into something they'll use long-term. The All-Star race at Bristol, I want to say maybe, is where they first used the choose cone and they implemented it, and I thought that was great. This one, do I see that coming into play? No, absolutely not. I've heard that some racetracks do it on a regular basis during a regular race. No, bad idea. For the exhibition all-star race, absolutely. I don't care what you do. I know Larry McReynolds talked about it. He said some of them it was too gimmicky. I don't see it as such. It's an exhibition for the fans for entertainment. Now, here's the problem as I get into this next part of my go-around. You say that. It's for the fans and for entertainment. What people find entertaining may be different. Some people find Michael Waltrip entertaining. Some do not. What I don't like is to say it's on Michael Waltrip. This was the promoter's caution. I don't think Michael Waltrip made the decision to go up in the flag stand and do what he did on his own without coordination and approval from Marcus Smith or a committee, a team that made that decision. Chris mentioned it. This was probably predetermined. There was one individual, and I won't even say the name, on SiriusXM today that I feel really bashed on Michael Waltrip, saying he ruined it by counting it down. And there were other callers that corrected that. He was up there again, hyping the crowd, which I thought was great. As an announcer, that's our job of that. He was asking, is it going to be in 10 laps or 5 or what? Playing to the crowd. And I thought he does a great job with it. I know some people think that the grid walk is kind of corny in this, but again, some people find it entertaining. Is it everybody's choice? No, and I get that. Being up in the flag stand, that was one of them, no matter who it was. When they announced it, the morning show, Pete Pistone and Mike Bagley are the ones I heard it from first. I'm not saying it was solely their idea. And remind me to come back and correct you on something, Chris. But they said that was the idea. Marcus Smith goes up there, has it in his hand. Am I going to throw it? Am I going to throw it? This individual that didn't like Michael Waltrip doing it wanted a GoPro cam up in the booth on Marcus Smith. How is that any different? If you're watching him with his hand above a button or whatever, it's the same thing. It just wasn't Michael Waltrip, which is why I feel that was a personal attack on Michael Waltrip. Now, I'm a fan of Dave Moody. He was not a fan of Michael Waltrip doing what he did. He also wasn't a fan of the fireworks. Why do we have fireworks for a caution flag? Again, it's the All-Star race. It's a promotion. It's for entertainment. I mean, how can you not be? I just, not very often I disagree with Dave Moody, but we disagree on that one. So, like I said, overall, all of it, again, it's the All-Star race. It's for the entertainment. Did it work? Yes. Did it not? No. Then don't do it again, whatever it be. I want to correct you on something, Chris. You went back to, and I believe the following year, they actually called it the Frankie Stoddard rule. Jeff Burton was the driver, but that was one of the greatest calls by a crew chief that outsmarted everybody, and that was Frankie Stoddard. And I just wanted to give him a shout out for that. And Sharon, being a Jeff Burton fan, knows this. I mean, that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant move.
All right, Chris.
Well, you know, I kind of wanted to bring the Michael Waltrip thing in with all this, but I know it's its own topic. I really, I don't know who other than Michael Waltrip would have been the right guy to put up in the flag stand with that. And the reason why I say that is because typically at a racetrack, you have a racetrack owner and then you have a racetrack promoter. And a lot of times those jobs are separate. You have a track owner who's basically, he's the one out there laying the dirt down or keeping the track function. And then you have the promoter who's basically the PR guy, the one that's always and Michael Waltrip is the perfect example of somebody who, whether you like him or you don't, he is Mr. NASCAR. And I'm going to tell you two reasons why. First of all, Michael has a direct connection with the All-Star race. That's where he got his first Cup win, and it wasn't an official race, but he won that day in that Wood Brothers car, and you'll never take that away from him. And I think that in that smile and that interview, Michael was never taken serious. He was Darrell Waltrip's little brother, and Michael had a lot of instances where it wasn't like he was all there all the time. But the moment after that win in 2000 in the All-Star race, people started to take Michael a little bit more serious. And then he said something here recently where he said, and this is, you just have to think of how complex this is. He said that there was no better guy than me to win that Daytona 500 where Dale Earnhardt died. The complexity to that Michael, after all of these years and having explained so many times and relived that emotion so many times, that's directly connected to his very first Cup win, to finally be able to bring some kind of voice, some kind of explanation as why that it all played out the way that it did. Michael Waltrip, back to the point, Michael Waltrip is the best promoter of NASCAR. He is the example of the guy who 300 and something tries and finally got the win, and his win was overshadowed by Dale Earnhardt's death. And then he got to be with Dale Jr. in Victory Lane in July later on that year, and then wound up winning another Daytona 500 and was able to celebrate that, right? He had 2 Daytona 500 wins, correct?
I think
Yes.
he only had one.
Yes.
Oh, he had 2?
No, he won a second time.
He won it
Okay.
second time. Whether I think that was the Daytona 500 win. So, you know, he is the only other person that I think could get up there and be the fool that Michael Waltrip is. And look, I mean, we can go back to Philip Hathcock in the spider costume and all, and
Oh,
the
wow.
dance down in the infield and all this other things. Sometimes a promoter has to be goofy. And
Oh, I
sometimes he's
remember
not
the
very
big.
well liked by everybody because of the goofiness. So I feel like, you know, Rutledge Wood may have been the only other, and Rutledge has not been in NASCAR for a while. So, you know, he was a guy that you definitely don't want to take a businessman like Marcus Smith and put him in a silly situation as the situation that Michael was in. As for the fireworks, I don't know when there's not ever a good time to shoot fireworks, but what we have found is that when rain's in the area, that's the best time to shoot fireworks because it actually, I know y'all have heard of the cyclone by Darrell Walter, but what we found is if you shoot fireworks up into the sky, it creates this big smoke bomb up there, and the rain, especially that old drizzly rain, or when it's going to come down, it actually kind of goes around that. If you shoot enough fireworks up in the sky, I'm just speculating. You might make enough disturbance to kind of keep the cars on the racetrack and keep that cyclone going, like old Darrell Waltrip told us about. But did I stay on
The
topic?
vortex
The
theory.
vortex.
The
The vortex.
vortex theory.
I'm gonna pass the baton to Miss Sharon.
Okay, but it was the vortex theory.
Yeah,
that
the vortex theory.
that Darrell Waltrip came up with. Yeah, I am typically not a fan of Michael Waltrip, but everything that you have said is absolutely correct. He was a good guy to have up there because he did exactly what they wanted him to do and said that they were going to do, is interact and engage the fans. This all-star race is all about engaging the fans. That's what the fan vote is all about. Is engaging the fans. So Michael Waltrip was doing that. He was engaging the fans and getting them involved in deciding when to throw the caution flag, the promoter's caution flag. At least that's the way I saw it. And I thought he did a good job of doing that. I guess where I had the issue with Michael Waltrip is when he dropped the yellow flag on the track. That to me was typical, class clown Michael Waltrip. So I wasn't exactly happy about that. I thought that was a goofball kind of thing, but maybe that's what it was intended to be. I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm speculating, maybe he wasn't paying attention and dropped the flag unintentionally. So I'm speculating there. But who knows? It was dropped. It was on the ground. I think it might have created, maybe it was it brought out the caution. So I know the cars weren't going really fast during that time.
Did we forget about the taco incident on the grid walk?
That got referenced. Yeah, that got referenced.
That
Come
did
on,
get
it's like
referenced.
Shaq following the Christmas tree every year. It was gonna happen. That was.
If Michael
but don't be
Waltrip had
fooled
the
by that
caution
one. I'm
flag,
only
it was going to
speculating.
happen. I agree with you there. If the caution flag is in Michael Waltrip's hand in the stand, it was going to happen. Just like we knew that the promoter's caution was going to happen at exactly the time that it happened. At least that's what I thought. But I don't know. I think Michael Waltrip did exactly what he was up there to do. And I think it was good. I think the fans enjoyed it. I think they enjoyed the fan engagement that happened with that promoter's caution. So, Jay, do you have a final thought?
Yeah, I did look it up just to make sure. 2001, which was Dale Earnhardt's death, Michael Waltrip won. He won the 500 again in 2003, 2 years later. Again, Sharon, you used the right words, the fan engagement. And the word I know that gets thrown around with what Michael Waltrip is ambassador. And I think he does do a good job of Yeah, and again, I understand. Chris brought up Rutledge Wood. Again, there were some that weren't fan of his. I'm okay with it. Is it for everybody? No. I mean, there's some things that the one lug nut isn't for everybody because some of us don't like that. Where the car number is put on a car, not everybody's a fan of that. Okay, but you're not gonna. What's that? Yeah, that's not speculation. That's a fact. I'm still not happy with, but again, it comes with it. So, I think about this of not everybody is willing to go out there and be goofy like that. And Chris, you brought up a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Would it be detrimental to have Marcus Smith be the one and I think had Marcus Smith done it himself, I don't know that it would have been as gimmicky. I think they could have still played it, but I think it would have been done in a different way. And I don't know if it would have been better than. I thought Michael did a great job. Like I said, as an announcer, especially during cautions or breaks, that's your job as an announcer to interact and then try and pump up the fans. And I think that's what Michael Waltrip's attempting to do. Whether or not it works or not, that's a different story and some opinions on it. But the last thing I want to say, and I don't know if you've ever flagged, Chris, trust me, I've flagged 3 times at Columbus Speedway. I was so fearful of dropping the flag, and I feel bad for anybody that has. And I didn't see it. I don't know, for all we know, off camera, it could have been he was trying to put it back in the slot and just missed the slot. I don't know.
No, it flew right out of his hand. I saw the right in front of the flag stand view today. It just flew right out of his hand.
Okay.
Boy, it flew out of his hand.
Yeah.
For me, honestly, the one I feared dropping was either the green, which they said honorary starters have done before. Again, they're not used to it. Or the checkered, because you want to whip that checkered flag. That's the one I feared dropping.
All right. Time to move on to our next hot topic. And I guess that's back to you, Jay.
All right. I think we got 1 or 2 left. This one, I hadn't even heard. Sharon, you put up and I hadn't heard. So it was kind of news to me and shocking, actually. RFK is going to appeal the Chris Buescher penalty. On what basis? I mean, that's what I got. On what basis? You were given some playroom and then you went over that. Good luck. I don't know what else to say there. Good luck.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's a penalty. Penalties are penalties. And I'll argue this with you, Jay. I accept the penalty and the fine, and I have to live with it. Or I can appeal it, and hopefully either it be reduced or even eliminated altogether. So I think all penalties should be appealed, just as you're given that right in the court system. If these guys want to waste the time of the appeal board, so be it. We've seen several times, especially Hendrick penalties. Not speculating on that one. That's very true. They've had moments where their penalties were overturned or reduced, and I think that's something that RFK probably doesn't have much to lose. Look, they've already got one guy in 35th place. They don't need, we're talking about big money at the end of the year. So this appeal is probably not based off the infraction. It's based off of, man, if we can have this reduced or completely overturned, then it's our benefit because we already have one team that's very deep in the points. We don't need all 3 teams deep in the points or 2, because that's detrimental to what you're going to be able to work with next year based off of earnings from this year. So I can see a valid point to that. Or also, as we've seen with the spoiler issue, with Joe Gibbs when Joe Gibbs showed up with 5 spoilers and they were all different. It was hard for the appeals board to not be in favor of Joe Gibbs. So maybe, just maybe, RFK has something to show here that we're unaware of.
Just maybe. We'll wait and see. My thought and speculation about this was that maybe there's some gamesmanship taking place here, because while they're appealing, they get to keep their crew chief. We've got the Coca-Cola 600 coming up this weekend. And I thought it was interesting that they played this after the All-Star race. Because our thought process going into this was that they wouldn't appeal it because they got one race free with the if they had appealed it before the All-Star race. That's a non-points paying race that wouldn't have hurt them in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that they waited until after that All-Star race was kind of interesting to me, because now if the appeal doesn't get overturned, they're going to lose that crew chief for 2 points paying races. So why would you do that? I don't understand, but that's what they did. But I do think there's gamesmanship in that the Coca-Cola 600 is coming up right after the Coca-Cola 600. What race is after the Coca-Cola 600? I had it.
I don't know.
But anyway, now they've got 2 points paying races. Nashville is coming up afterwards. So they're not going to lose their crew chief for the Coca-Cola 600 unless NASCAR hears this appeal sometime this week and gives a ruling on it. Maybe they will overturn it. I don't know how that would happen. Like you said, Chris, it would have to be something that we're totally not aware of. But I thought it was pretty clear cut that they couldn't go over the 2 inches, and they were over the 2 inches on that foam bumper, that bumper foam. So
Hold on. I thought that I did hear that he did sit. This is driver Chris Buescher was docked 60 driver points and 5 playoff points. The team was docked 60 points and 5 playoff points in addition to a $75,000 fine. Crew chief Scott Graves was suspended for 2 races and voluntarily served the first of them over the weekend at North Wilkesboro. He will also sit out this weekend's Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The appeal, whenever it's heard, will be about getting their points back.
Okay, so that explains the timing of their announcement.
This is off of the Sporting News.
Okay.
And the title is RFK to appeal major NASCAR penalty against Chris Buescher.
Okay, so they already served a 1 race suspension. So now they're trying to protect the Coca-Cola 600 is what you're saying. But again, and the only thing I can think of is they're looking for a lesser penalty. That's the only thing it could be, is they're looking for the precedent. But I think NASCAR, and Jay and I talked about this in previous shows, give them some leeway, but tell them where the demarcation line is. If you go over this mark, you're going to get a penalty, and it's going to be a stiff penalty. And I think they gave them some leeway on that bumper foam. And they told them where the limit was, and they did go over it. So I don't see where there's any room for argument there. But it'll be interesting to see what's there that maybe we're not aware of at this point. But I think they're trying to protect their Coca-Cola 600 race and have Scott Graves at the track while they appeal. The only way that's not going to work is if the appeal is heard this week.
Well, no, he's already sitting out this week. Regardless, he sat out for the North Wilkesboro race, and it says that he is sitting out again this weekend.
Oh, he is sitting out.
He is sitting out.
Does that tell you that they think that they know they're not going to win the appeal?
Well, it says the appeal, whenever it's heard, will be about getting their points back. That's what the article
getting their points back. So they're looking for a lesser points penalty.
Yeah, for sure. It comes down to money, for sure.
Okay, so that's where it's at. Because he did take a big hit. Okay, so thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think all of our listeners probably appreciate that as well. They may or may not have heard that. So again, that's speculation. We're playing with that tonight. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to say I wanted to charge you with robbery, Sharon. I think back to playing a game with my buddy he'd always be like, you took my answer. It was like, well, it was the wrong answer. And I was going to say the same thing, that maybe it was to somehow get the crew chief to stay and be there for the 600, but they're already saying that we're taking that part of it. I don't know then what aspect of that they think they could win. And I'm not saying that, they don't have the right to, Chris. Excuse me. Sorry.
They're just looking for less penalty.
But I know it costs money to do the appeal and present it. You get your lawyer or whatever. And I mean, I'm sure they got some on staff, but some of the team owners have talked about it. It's not worth that time, effort, money, whatever. But if they feel they have a case, and a couple of weeks ago, you had Ryan Preece who had one. Here's the ironic thing Ryan Preece had theirs, and they did accept that one, which put him out of the top 16, which is the cut line, the playoff cut line right now. With this one, Buescher was now out and Preece was in. If they get some of those points back, it's going to possibly push Preece back out. So it's kind of ironic. It's their own two teams that they're flip-flopping. Yeah. But like I said, I'm with you, Sharon. I didn't even know they had set to appeal it, but what grounds they have to even possibly – I mean, if you did something wrong, you're right. You can still go in and hope that the judge or the panel in this case, just having a good day or whatever, and but if you're gonna spend the time, effort, whatever, to go and try and appeal it, I would think you would have some type of grounds to stand on, not just let's see if we can get away with it type deal. But I don't know. Like I said, it was surprising to me because I was with Sharon. From my understanding, it was pretty much a black and white deal. But you still have that right. I'm not saying they don't have the right to. I just, from what I know, which is very little a lot of times, especially when it comes to technical side to things. But I wish them luck. I mean, if it works, it works. But from what my understanding was, it was a black and white. Now, and Chris, you mentioned the Joe Gibbs one with the spoilers. Yes, that was a black and white. This hole was wrong or whatever. That they showed, hey, all of these parts are. I disagreed with that because we've seen some of that in the past of, well, it's your job to check that beforehand, but they got it. So, and Hendrick Motorsports, I know you referenced that. They've had some, again, some I'm like, I don't know how they got away with it. I'm not a conspiracy, Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR together conspiracy person. You kind of hinted at that, but yeah. Oh yeah, Monopoly. There you go.
Going on about that. I think
right.
I think some people are accusing that.
No. We don't. No. That wasn't on our list tonight. We don't have to talk about the lawsuit tonight.
My bad. I thought we were going to be on till like 2 a.m. So
I don't think we're going to talk about the lawsuit ever again.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But I shared some interesting things to Miss Sharon over the week, and I actually have something else that I'll share with you after this show. That. And it's something that Dale Jr. had to say about it. So, and you'll find what I'm talking about. So anyway, I was looking at the point standings. I seen that I believe Chris Buescher's in 24th, Brett Keselowski's in 33rd, and Ryan Preece is amazingly in 15th. So yeah, it's definitely. It probably just comes down to the significant amount of points lost there. Yep. And trying to regain those in a desperate attempt. I mean,
holy cow! Wait, you're saying with this penalty that pushes Buescher down to 24th?
Yes.
Ouch! Because he would have been about 17th or 18th. Well, I guess that's only 6 positions.
That's a big money difference. I mean, especially when
I get that.
When you're in a chase cutoff, and the top 16 is going to bring home the money anyway. So. You know, it's definitely putting them in a must-win situation.
And they could
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, Keselowski, he's had speed. We've seen that at Kansas last week. And Buescher, you know, we're waiting for him to come around. There's certain tracks I think Buescher's really good at. And Preece has been the fastest thing out there. And that shows in his points position right now, 15th. And including a penalty.
Including that penalty. Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
Right.
So, yeah, I do think that I understand why they're doing it better now than I did before. So thank you, Chris.
And let me add to that, you know, and I didn't realize it was that, you know, the penalty was 60 points, right?
Plus 5 playoff points.
No, I'm just talking about this list shows him in 19th. I don't know which one you're looking at, Chris.
Well, I'm looking at the one off of J Ski, which was updated.
Yeah, it says 19th, 224 points after penalty. You sure you looked at the right name?
Points report after Kansas Speedway. Up Sunday, May 11th. I don't need to see how he would have gained points with the subtraction.
You guys are looking at the same page and seeing two different things.
I don't think we're. I don't.
Fourth in driver's points. So.
Let me click the one that says driver points. That was one on the front page. But either way, it shows him at 224 points. If you put that back in, you're right. They 224. The front page.
Yeah, there's something wrong there because
there is two different things.
Oh, there's two different things.
230 points.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting in and of itself.
Well, the front, that one page is wrong, but add either way, it shows Buescher this at 224 points. Either way, you add 60 back in that's 284. That would actually put him in 12th place ahead of Chase Briscoe. So I didn't realize it was all that close that was going to swing him that far of that.
And not only that, the one thing that we're missing here that I think has been pointed out on other shows is that means with those negative 5 points, that means if Chris Buescher wins,
that's huge.
He's still at 0 with playoff points. And that's a major, major impact.
And I think that might be part of what they're going after. And I don't know if there's a precedence. That would be what they would have to go in there with, is some kind of precedence. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to, it's still an L1 penalty. So I don't know. There's been stiffer penalties for L1 penalties. So we'll see. Time always tells the rest of the story. Anything more you guys have to say there?
Nope.
No, again, I'll say good luck. Like I said, I don't know what their case or argument is, or if it's just to try it and see what happens. Either way, I wish them luck.
Okay. With that, I think, Prime is coming to Charlotte this weekend. So if you're not a Prime subscriber, you're not going to be able to see the race unless they have the replays on YouTube. Let's go around and give your thoughts on that. Chris, we'll start with you on that one.
I got it real simple. 2 words. That sucks.
That's it?
I mean, we could. You're just taking an older fan base that already grumbles about everything, and it's like my father, 65 years old. He has no reason. He's a single man. He has no reason to have Amazon Prime, so that I have a family of 6. We have stuff delivered to our house every single day. My dad lives, out on the truck for 3 days out of the week. He doesn't have Amazon Prime, so he doesn't have a reason to already own the subscription to Amazon. I think that we want the IndyCar deal where we're on prime time, where we're on a non-cable network television. We're kind of moving in the opposite direction with that. Now, what Prime has been able to put together and the all-star staff that they have, I can't complain about that end. But once again, we're kind of pushing the old fan out for this new age gimmick with these streaming services. And glad that you said that, Miss Sharon. I think the best thing that would have been a great option for Prime would have been to have kind of leased this out to maybe a YouTube or something to bring you in the experience first. Because I'm going to tell you right now, my father's probably just going to miss the next 5 races because he's not going to see the reason to buy into Prime just over a simple race. And so you're you know, if you had given maybe the first race on YouTube and given somebody the reason, until somebody sees the broadcast and can tell that Prime is bringing something different to the table and worth purchasing, I think it's a bad gimmick for the long-standing race fans. As I said, my father is the perfect example to that, and I'll stick with that. It just sucks for them because they are not going to jump in and just buy something to watch 5 races of the year off of. You'll probably see a lot of these older crowds listening to it on the old MRN radio or something to that effect. They're still probably going to listen, but I don't foresee too many people going out and just buying Prime for NASCAR.
Jay, I know you've got some thoughts on this as well.
I want Chris to clarify something. You said 65. What if you're, say, 49 years old, are busy on Sundays to record the race, and you can't record off a streaming device? I've had this discussion with Sharon. I do not have Amazon Prime. I do not do online shopping. I don't like to watch stuff off of streaming off my phone. So I'm in that situation. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. And I don't know if we're going to go around twice here because there's not a whole lot to say because it's happening. I will say this. I understand that is the future or this generation, and they're trying to engage that. I respect that. You said the staff they got, the plan they got to respect that. But what about those that don't, that are your, I'm going to say core fan base. I'm not going to say older, but I know that my mom is one too. And yeah, she was very upset with that of going to miss 5 races and maybe boycott the whole season then because of it. I'm not that far left, but the discussion today, again, of twice in one day, if you, yeah, up in Minnesota. The discussion today on Sirius XM, believe it or not, I got to go against Dave Moody twice. Somebody called in and pointed out if you do prior to Sunday's Coca-Cola 600, do the 30-day free trial, that you can cover all 5 races in that 30-day free trial. And I was aware of that. And again, I am debating it. Dave Moody said he would not condone or endorse that to just use it for 30 days just for NASCAR. And I was like, that was my plan all along if I do it. Record-setting day there that I was not in agreement with Dave Moody twice. But like I said, I'll have to see. Because again, for me, I would be getting it just for NASCAR. I haven't had it up till now. I have no desire to try and get it or use it in any other way. It would be strictly for NASCAR. And I don't like the fact that I'm put in that position where I have to. Again, I already have cable. That's how I chose to get my NASCAR content. Now I got to pay additional or a separate one, whether it be for a month or whatever. I think there could have been a better way to do it. Again, for a core fan base.
Stay strong, friends. Stay strong.
But that's all I got, honestly. But like I said, I understand they're trying to engage. This is one of those where I understand they're trying to engage the younger generation, bring about new fans. So I get it. I understand it. And I'm not going to bash on NASCAR or whoever for doing it and trying it, because I want to see the sport continue with the next generation and younger fans. So I get that.
Okay. I was just looking here. The season, here's a breakdown of how to watch the NASCAR races on Amazon Prime. Starting in 25, 5 Cup Series races will be broadcast live. They have been doing practice and qualifying on the streaming service throughout the first half of the season through Pocono of June 22, excluding the Cookout Clash at the Bowman Gray Stadium. Coverage. Prime Video kicks off in May with the Coca-Cola 600, but I'm also reading that the Coca-Cola 600 will also be broadcast on Fox. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I had not. I really thought they said over the weekend this was their last.
I think it is their last.
No, that the All-Star was. I thought that the All-Star was. Huh.
Okay, the All-Star probably was. Fans can get in on racing action by taking advantage of a 30-day free trial, courtesy of Amazon Prime. Sign up now to see all of your Prime Video's extensive NASCAR coverage throughout the summer. So you can sign up for the free service. It is going to be for Charlotte, Nashville, Michigan, Autodrome in Mexico City, and Pocono Raceway. So through June 22nd. And then TNT takes over, which you can usually get on your cable services. So it doesn't say anything on NASCAR's site about it being on Fox. So that's probably one of those fake shows. What are you showing me?
Yeah, it's J-Ski, my go-to spot, man. It says TV, it's on Prime, radio, it's on PRN and Sirius XM radio. So that's
it. It's not on Fox.
Yeah, I really thought the Fox broadcast said goodbye because the All-Star was their last deal.
When I was searching, that came up, and I think it's just maybe something from a previous.
Oh, no, yeah, they had the Indy 500, y'all. They wouldn't.
That's right. Yeah, they wouldn't be
doing that. So you can get the free trial offer for 30 days and still be able to catch that. I would wait until May 22nd or anytime after May 22nd. Probably May 23rd or whatever, to sign up for your free trial offer. So you'll have those 30 days for free that you can watch all 5 of those races. And then you just have to mark your calendar to cancel it after that if you don't want to continue with the service. But Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte are going to be in the booth. And I know you guys, and you guys bring up good examples of fans that may not be able to do that. But I will tell you, they are speaking, this is speaking to the new fan base versus the old fan base. And I know we never want to lose fans from watching, and I feel for those fans that aren't going to be able to watch it. I will tell you, YouTube usually has the replays available on YouTube. You can watch there the next day. You're not going to be able to watch same day. So, Jay, in your case, you won't have to record it, but you can go to YouTube and watch it the next day. So, which you would be doing anyway, right?
Well, yeah, but again, if it's on a recording, and again, I'm just not a big fan of watching it on my phone and
streaming services. But that is the future. I hate to tell you, I'm older than all.
I'm aware.
I got to tell you, I'm completely on streaming services. I have Hulu TV, and I get my streaming service and TV service through Hulu. So I don't have cable. I'm tired of paying those cable prices, and I refuse to pay it. So I'd rather go the streaming services where I can get it for a lot cheaper.
What, Hulu has Fox Sports too?
Huh? Yes, Hulu has Fox Sports too. Yes, they do.
Hulu.
Well, Hulu you have to sign up for the streaming service for live TV.
Hulu. Yeah,
we have
Hulu, Peacock.
But do you have
Amazon
live TV
Prime,
on Hulu?
Netflix, Max. Do what?
Okay. Do you have live TV on Hulu?
Jimmy. I I don't know. I mean, I
You
don't know.
have
We
to
got
have
everything. We
You
have
have to have
Xfinity.
live TV. You pay.
I don't
extra.
understand why I pay for Xfinity and then I pay for all these streaming services as well.
Well,
I'm
I
paying
would get
double.
rid of Xfinity. You're paying an arm and a leg for Xfinity.
You have no idea.
Yes,
Oh my
get
gosh.
rid of it. Go to Hulu. Go to Hulu TV.
But my internet is booming.
Well, I hate to say it, but I have fiber optic.
Oh
internet.
yeah, I wish. Yeah,
I love my fiber optic.
Sharon, I've talked about that. I don't have it yet. I have a pretty good idea of where Chris lives, and yeah, I'm not even sure if they have a stoplight in town. Do you?
Well,
we got a blinking light finally.
A blinking light. All right.
Area. I visit Austin. I visit Chicago because I have family in those areas, and I spend extended times there. I will tell you, my Hulu TV is wonderful.
Awesome.
and I love it. So, not everybody. I know it's not for everybody, and I feel for those fans that are going to miss.
Do we have live TV on Hulu, son? No, we don't have live TV.
There you go.
Okay, that's the one thing that we don't have is live TV, but we do have Hulu, right?
Yeah, you have to have live TV on Hulu.
Okay. Yeah, we do not. We have Hulu, but we do not have live TV Hulu. So Hulu has live sports, and we don't get it.
Oh, okay, and I do get it on my Hulu because I have Hulu's live TV. So, I would opt for the free trial offer. But I don't know, if you're not a streaming person, that might not still be an option for you. But
stand your ground. Look, I knew the moment that I signed up on Peacock for the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills game that this was a bad idea. And it's like so many other things in life. You knew not to take that first puff on the cigarette. You knew that night not to go out drinking with your buddies. Yeah, it's one of those where I wish I would have just stayed strong, because that's that was the portal that got open when the NFL used one simple streaming service to get that many people to download it to watch one game. It was a reason why it was Kansas City and Buffalo. They knew what they were doing. They have
a lot of live sports on Prime Video. My brother loves watching.
And I love that. Like, I watch the boxing and stuff on the Prime Video. So yeah, there's a lot of.
Jay.
No, here's
stay strong, my friend. Stay strong.
No, Chris, you pointed out exactly what my issue is. To watch, some of us you guys have referenced it a couple of times. To watch WWE, you got to have Netflix. To watch NASCAR now, I got to have Amazon Prime. To watch the Buffalo Bills or whoever I'm a fan of, I got to have Peacock. Okay, I mean, and I'm not saying it's going to come to the same cost as cable, but it's one location, one payment. Right.
Well, for me, I'm already paying for Amazon Prime because of the free shipping. I mean, I can ship to my grandkids and everybody and not have to pay for shipping.
And I understand that. Like I said, I am not an online shopper. So there was something the other day that I don't have because I'm like, I don't want to online shop. But
do you use Grubhub?
No,
I do not.
Oh. It's with Amazon, so I mean they give you discounts.
I know they do have free Grubhub for Amazon. I don't know why I don't use it. I just never have.
Okay, y'all aren't selling me on this. Again, food is not my drive in life. So yeah.
I mean, it's included in their price. But see, we're already paying for it, so there's no additional cost there.
I don't do the Walmart shop online and have them bring it out to me in the parking lot either.
But let me tell you something. Do you fill up a lot? I drive for a living. I drive my own personal vehicle. I pay for my own gas. With Walmart Plus, you save 10 cents a gallon.
Oh, I got.
Trust me,
and you get Paramount Plus for free.
Oh,
there's another one. See, there again. And there's great shows. I see advertised. But again, each one of them's on a different one.
$2.58 a gallon. At Sam's Club, I got my gas for $2.58 a gallon.
Yeah, trust me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I found out the hard way. I found out the hard way there about the Walmart deal because I saw the gas price. So I pulled in. They're like, no, you got to pay this because you don't have our card. And I do a lot of Circle K stops there again, but you got to have the Circle K one. I mean, I'm just like, I don't want all this stuff. I'll just pay cash and go on my way. And I know cash is coming to an end too, so I get it. Eventually you're going to have to evolve. I get it.
There is a future world in which you might not survive.
I get it.
Stay strong, my friend, my flip phone friend. Stay strong.
Hey, I would pick it up and show it to you. It's my alarm clock. It's my alarm clock right now. I still have a flip phone.
All right.
Yes, I do.
So I know neither one of these names were really brought up tonight, and I think we're probably kind of at the closing in, and I wanted to save one for last. First of all, thank God we did not make an entire show about Kyle Larson. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. He only qualified a mediocre 21st, and then Young Money stepped on his own toes again and parked her in the wall. And because, I mean, this guy drove from last place to first place. I don't know if y'all caught that. The only other thing was the 18 lead changes was kind of, it was kind of out there. Like, you know, I think the lead changes were only between 3 or 4 drivers. So they stuck that word out there a lot. But what they were not saying is there's only been 3 races at that racetrack, and this was the first race with that amount of laps added to it. The other name that I kind of felt bad that we didn't mention was Tony Stewart, y'all.
Oh, yeah,
Tony
he
Stewart
won
won his second
NHRA.
NHRA race. So hey,
I saw that.
keep on kicking, Smoke.
Yeah, Tony won that NHRA race. He was as happy as a clam.
Now, wait up. I brought up Kyle Larson when we were talking about who's going to win the championship, Christopher Bell or I don't even remember.
Well, I think it's going to be between
Joey
those
Logano.
two.
I think they all definitely have a shot at it. But I just said I think Kyle Larson's got something to say about it too, because he's not going to lose his championship eligibility by missing the Coca-Cola 600 this week, and that's a guarantee. They promised that.
Okay. Well, let's go around the horn here and talk about what you're up to and doing.
All right.
Chris, we'll start with you.
I will be watching the final 4 episodes of Around the Horn. Unfortunately, ESPN has decided to invest into athletes being commentators instead of journalists. Around the Horn was one of the best shows ever. It's for 23 years. It's been a go-to in the afternoon before, pardon the interruption. So it's very dear to my heart that you actually use that term, Around the Horn, because I've always been a big fan of Tony Pirelli, and his show is very unique. It makes our show what it is because it's journalists, it's people with opinions, and not former athletes with their arrogance. So I think that it's shows like this that people miss, and not so much of the Dale Juniors and Kevin Harvick sitting there talking war stories. You can find me on at Flag of Caution on Twitter, Flag of Caution on TikTok. You can find me at Chris at Yellow Caution Flag Creighton on Facebook. Or you can find me on every other Saturday night out there at the dirt track at Why Not Motorsports Park, the House of Hook. Our next show coming up is actually going to be in 2 weeks. It's the USCS Sprint Cars. The Outlaw Thunder Series returns to the House of Hook. I believe it is May 31st. So we're looking forward to Pete Walton and his group, Terry Gray, and hopefully all the big guns, Derek Hagar and all them will be there as well. I'm looking forward to that. And thank you for giving me a place to be on Monday night right here on Fan4Racing this year.
You are very welcome. And Jay.
You can follow me. Facebook is Michael Hoosman, MoparMJ8 on Twitter and Instagram. And I wanted to say, Chris, I was happy to see y'all didn't get rained out on Saturday night with the Crate Late Model Series there at the House of Hook. They're coming to Jackson Motor Speedway next weekend. But I also wanted to take a shot at you there. I also liked Around the Horn. You want to know why? Because the host mutes these people.
I know, right? I know. So, yeah, that's exactly the reason I didn't say last week why. it didn't bother me to get muted because I mean that's like it's almost an honorary thing. It's so if anybody that's been a long time watcher of Around the Horn knows that that's part of the game. Like you get muted, and so by no means. And thank you, Miss Sharon, for taking my lighthearted attitude towards things like speculations. I that's how I tend to deal with things and program myself. And when I can have other people laughing at it as well, I feel like I'm not so much of a smart ass and more of just a playful gig. And that's what I intended it to
Exactly.
be. So it's cool that I got people that actually understand my kind of sense of humor and play into it. That goes a long way and makes you feel kind of comfortable. But
Chris,
yeah,
I've known you a
so
long time.
I got to get a piece of paper here so that at the end of it we can throw it at the cameras. That way we're doing it in actual around the horn style. So yeah, Miss
You want to
Sharon,
know what? I always loved Woody's sign behind him. I loved seeing what he always had written up there behind him. I thought that was always hilarious.
Yeah, he was on Dan Patrick today, and he said that there was at one time Woody Page put a 1-900 number up there, and it caused quite a stir.
Oh man!
I do have to say though, Chris, I might have to bleep you because I know my grandkids check out the videos sometimes, and so you said a little 3-letter word that I might have to bleep so that the little ones don't hear that. I'm sure they've heard that word before.
I'm so very sorry. We have a guy by the name of Billy Walker, and
You won't said it.
He did silence himself.
Black Flag Billy Walker. Sharon, I don't know if you've heard. I think I have talked about him on here before, just real quick. I understand. Yeah, I understand. He is one of the drivers that puts the helmet on, and he's a different person. If you talk to him or get to know him, he actually is a really nice guy. But yeah, he puts the helmet on.
He's a different person.
He's Joey Logano.
Well,
Exactly. Joey Logano.
all right. You better wrap it up, Sharon.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to wrap it up. I do have all of our links down in the description. So if you want to use one of those links to follow any of us, that's greatly appreciated. And we always appreciate you taking the time to tune in and to listen to what we have to say. We have a whole lot of fun, in case you couldn't tell. Mm-hmm. And I will say that we do have more coming soon. We'll be back here next Monday night, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, and 7 o'clock Pacific time for our live streaming of Hot Topic Sound Off. And I'm sure we'll have a whole boatload of more hot topics to talk about. So please join us for the live stream. And we do have a live chat available that you can join in the conversation. We'd really encourage you to do that. Jay and I were going to be busy at the end of this week doing all of the previews for the races at Charlotte. 5 races this weekend with 3 NASCAR National Series and 2 ARCA races taking place this weekend. ARCA Menard Series at Charlotte and ARCA West out at Colorado National. And then Monday we'll be back with the reviews. We have all of the reviews up now for all of the races at North Wilkesboro and Flat Rock Speedway this weekend. Those reviews are up and out. So we hope you'll tune in and listen to those as well as our Hot Topic Sound Off here as well. And share. If you like what you heard here tonight, please share our video stream and let us know that you like it by clicking the thumbs up button and like our video as well. So again, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys at the end of the week in our next videos.
All right. There you go, Chris. Nice.
Nice. Take care, everybody.